I'll start my story in the very beginning. Best place to start, very beginning. So it was January of 97. I was conceived. Then about 9 months later, I was born. In between then and now, a series of decisions were made, experiences were experienced, and I wound up with this podcast. That's basically my story. Thank you very much. Hope you learned something. No, no, yeah. No, I'm just kidding. I'll give you a little more detail than that. And I'll start with my days in high school, sitting right where you're sitting right now. And I'll start with, usually when teachers invite students back to talk to students, that means that the person they invited back was a good student themselves. It's not the case with me. My report card in high school looked something or sounded like da-da-da-ah. By that I mean D's and maybe an A if I was lucky. So in high school, my main priorities, my main interests were talking to girls, pulling pranks, and wrestling. Only one of those things did I do successfully, and that was pulling pranks. So basically, I was a dorky, average athlete who was a troublemaker because I pulled pranks and stuff. So high school, iffy student, had a lot of fun, had a good head on my shoulders, good moral compass, things like that. But I did excel in a couple classes, a couple subjects. Sucked in math, sucked in science, sucked in history. Those things, what they are is like you study, at least in my head, you study things that already exist. You have no say about how they work and operate together. You don't have any say about how the numbers go together, how the chemicals react to each other, how history happened. At least you don't think you have a say about how history happened. But anyway, the things that I did do well in were speech and art. Speech and art, because they're really just ways of expressing yourself. Have you ever had Miss Convery or Mrs. McCullough for a class? Yeah, she was awesome. She fueled my creativity and the art and stuff, and I could remember we did Renaissance paintings, and she let me, instead of having a sword, like from the St. Michael portrait, I made myself with a lightsaber, and she was all cool with it. I'm like, awesome. And then in speech, I gave a speech about Twinkies, and Miss Convery, it was all about me being funny and trying to make people laugh. And so I gave the speech, made people laugh, and I just fell in love with giving speeches. I just love standing in front of people and making them laugh, making them smile, and all that good stuff. And so, anyway, high school came and went, and I'll tell you one thing. I believe in God. I believe in... No way. Well, I tell you what, I believe in God because I passed algebra. There's no way I could have passed algebra without a little divine intervention. So I passed algebra, I graduated on time, and then by the grace of God again, and a few other factors like being a wrestler and getting a partial scholarship, and be honest, being Mexican, that helps with this, I got into Millikan University. I don't make those rules, I just play the game, you know. So I got into Millikan University, and this is where things really started getting interesting. So we live in Fairbury. You guys are all from like Fairbury, right? Okay. Got it. Okay, got it. Chatsworth. Okay, well, same thing here. Where are you from? Chatsworth. So this is a conservative area, right? It's farm town, wholesome, family-oriented, stuff like that. I went to the number 7 theater school in the country. Totally different way of thinking there. Very liberal, very left. It was just all new stuff, all new information, all new ways of thinking, from politics to all sorts of stuff. Just all these different ways of thinking came into my head, and it was interesting. And I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed college very much. And I took 3 classes that changed my life. Psychology, speech, and film production. And I'm going to start with psychology. You know what psychology is? It's a study of the human mind, how we think, how we operate, why we make the decisions that we do. It's very interesting. But get this. And I was debating saying this or not. And it's true. So my psychology professor, this is before I went into the class and actually sat down in it, I knew this. My psychology professor, when he was 16 years old, murdered his family with a shotgun. Murdered his family with a shotgun, and that's the truth. Only about 3 years before I came to college did this become news, and it was national news. Obviously. What had happened is when he was 16, he murdered his family, and he went to a psych ward. They deemed him insane, clinically insane at court. Went to a psych ward for 6 years, got out, was clinically sane, moved from Texas, changed his name to an interesting name that I may or may not say on camera later, but changed his name, got his doctorate in psychology, and started teaching at Millikan University. And he was a good teacher. Right, well, this guy who did that, he was teaching me about the human mind. Who better to learn about the human mind from than this guy? And so I was all ears. I was just glued. I was fascinated. I was immersed in this world of figuring out why people make the decisions that they make, why certain people tick a certain way. It was awesome. And I developed a lot of sympathy for people, so when someone's telling me their story of how they grew up and it was so tough, I'm like, dude, tell me more. Like, maybe we can work something out here. So I began to love conversations. I was fascinated with how people think. Next class, speech. As I said, I had Miss Convery in one class, and she was all about me being funny, me being humorous. She helped me a lot. She sharpened my speech chops. And in college, it was just another level. I remember I gave a speech, and there were no limits on what you could give speeches on. I gave a speech to the class about why the girls in the class should date me. Remember how I said that was just one of my interests in high school that I wasn't very good at. It worked. In college, it worked. I got a few numbers after that, and it was a pretty darn good speech. But so I loved that class. I loved standing in front of people. Obviously, I'm standing in front of you right now, and I'm probably talking a million miles a minute and stuff. But loved that class. Deeply interested in psychology. Deeply interested in speech. And then the other one was film production. Film production. When I was a kid, I made YouTube videos with my friends that you could not pay me to watch now. They're so cringy, so ridiculous, and like 5 people watched them. But I knew how to work a camera. I knew generally how to make a script, and I knew sort of how to entertain people. So while everyone else in that class was learning how to take like the lens cap off of the camera, like basic stuff, I was shooting full-length interviews with people that were funny. And so the teacher there liked me a lot. I learned so much about film production and editing, how to make video beautiful. And this will all come into play later on, but I didn't know it at the time. You know Steve Jobs? Anyone know Steve Jobs? No? The creator of Apple. You probably all have like Apple products of some sort. He has an Apple computer right here. Steve Jobs created all that. Probably the best entrepreneur of all time. But one thing he said, one of my favorite quotes was, in life, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You guys think about your future right now. Good luck. You don't know how the dots are going to connect. You can only connect the dots looking years later, looking backwards. You can connect the dots of your life right now. How'd you wind up in this position? Well, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. But you don't know how the dots are going to connect in the future later on. So you have to trust, that they're going to connect in some way that's good. And I always remembered that because the path that my life took just made no sense. It was the most weirdly written story of all time. So anyway, while I'm in college, those classes are going well. But I start tanking in some other classes. Accounting and math. And this is where I learned a very valuable skill. It wasn't how to do accounting and math. It was networking. Networking. You know what networking is, any of you? Take a guess. Give me something. It can be, if it's wrong, it's great.
Isn't it like how much you earn?
No, you're kind of on the right track a little bit. Close. Give me something. Why does everyone say that? They said that the last class. No, that is a type of networking.
No.
Anything? Okay, well, networking is basically in business. It's developing relationships with people, becoming their friends in a way that hopefully can benefit you later on in business or in some other way. So if you've got a plumbing business, and you've got a construction business, I'm friends with you, and you say, hey, my construction business, Paul, I wish I had a plumber. I say, hey, I know this guy. He's part of my network. He has a plumbing business. Set you guys up. It's great. And then you guys are like, my plumbing business needs to advertise. I'm like, I got a podcast. Advertise on my podcast. Business is good. And that's networking right there. So how did I learn that? By doing terrible in accounting and math. This is how. So accounting grades, going down. But I had a friend named Parag. Parag's like straight from India, I'm pretty sure. Really good at accounting. Really good at accounting. And he let me copy off of his accounting homework. And I did that for a while. Until one day, he told me, you're going to start having to pay for this. I'm like, Parag, dude, I thought we were friends. Hey, man, I'm providing some of value. You got to provide some of value for me. Give me $10. So I'm like, all right. Well, I was good at speech, and I had another friend who was terrible at speech. So I'd write his speeches for him, and he'd pay me $15. And then I give 10 of that to Parag for his accounting homework, and I still had $5, so I'm learning business and I'm learning networking at the same time. And then while my math grade was going down, I had a friend named Sam Lack, and he just helped me with my math for free because he's a nice guy. Anyway, school year comes to an end, freshman year at Millikan, and I'm like put on academic probation because I had a D. And they're like, which basically means, hey, your grades aren't doing too hot, don't make us look bad. If you can't fix this, don't come back. So I have a decision to make. Do I want to come back and spend another $40,000 for my second year? I don't know. And it's my dad's money, so he doesn't know about that either. I decided to drop out of college after my freshman year. You know, whatever. Move back home. Start coaching a swim team. Then I start roofing. I don't know if you guys have ever done roofing, but that stuff is hard work, especially commercial roofing. You have to lay white tarp down, basically, and it's just reflecting the sun in the middle of the summer. You get sunburns and weird spots on your face, like the bottom of your eyelids. Hurts. It's weird. The bottom of your chin and stuff. That's hard work. So I start roofing. I'm coaching swim team, and on the side I'm selling smoothies. Why am I selling smoothies? Short story. People asked, I was kind of fit. They're like, how'd you get fit? I don't know. I drink smoothies. Can you make me smoothies? Sure. I ordered like 100 bottles off of Amazon, blended my own smoothies, poured them in there, capped them off, put them in the fridge, and people bought them for like $5 a pop. I started an Instagram page for that. People would drive up to my dad's house and I'd give them a smoothie. It was really unlegit. It's probably illegal, honestly. But it worked, and it was just a fun little thing. So I was roofing for a few months, doing the smoothie on the side. Work sucked. And one day, this is where the kind of the crux of the story is very strange. One day, I have to get up for work 4 a.m. every day, get to the place by 5, get on the roof by 6. One day, my alarm clock doesn't go off. Only happened one time, and it automatically resets every single night. But one day, alarm clock doesn't go off, and I wake up at 7 a.m. and I miss work. Okay, well that's weird. I have no idea why the alarm clock didn't go off, but my dad's gone, everyone's gone, it's just me. So I'm like, what am I going to do? I go to Casey's to get a donut. Reasonable thing to do. So on my way to Casey's, I passed by my mom's house. And parents are divorced, obviously. They don't just live apart for fun. But I passed by my mom's house, and I think, hey, let's go see what mom's up to. So I walk up to her door, try to open it. It's locked. Okay. Normally I would just go and continue to get my coffee. But it's locked, and I turn around for a second. I'm like, okay, go get my coffee. Then I'm like, the weirdest thing came over me. Still don't know what it is today. And I studied psychology at Millikan. I love psychology. Still don't know what this phenomena is. Something came over me. I said, nah, I'm going to check on my mom. And there's like a deadbolt. This thing is locked. This door is locked, and I yank it open. I remember I bent the door handle, broke some wood when I opened the door. So I better have a good reason, right? Why I broke my mom's freaking door. Like, what am I going to tell her? So anyway, I walk inside. I'm like, Mom, what's up? I don't know why. I just had this weird feeling. Mom, hello? You up here? I walked upstairs to her room. Door's left open. And this is what shocked me. So the door's open. I open a little further. And I see my mom. And she's laying on her bed with her eyes open. And she's looking right at me. It's a freaky sight. So her eyes are open. I'm like, what are you doing? I've been saying your name. I'm like, Mom, what are you doing? Nothing. She doesn't say anything. Yeah, it's weird. I'm like, so quick, the gears are turning in my head. I'm like, Mom? Nothing. Just staring at me with these like freaked out eyes. I'm like, oh, snap. So I went up closer to her. I'm like, are you okay? Doesn't say anything. But her eyes are open. Obviously, what I realize is something's gone wrong with her brain. So I sit her up. I don't know how many of you have done this. Probably none. Have you dressed your mom? I had to get my mom dressed. And I was like 20, I guess. I had to dress my mom. And I said, we're obviously going to the doctor. And she can't move. So I pick her up, put her on my shoulder, little kid style. And I take her downstairs. She lives alone, by the way. Take her downstairs, set her on the couch, say, wait here, as if she's going anywhere. But I set her down on the couch. I race to my dad's, get my car, come back. And I pick her up, take her into the car, take her to the doctors in Fairbury. They say, Paul, something's wrong with your mom. I said, duh. And then they said, well, get her to the ER, we'll call an ambulance. I'm like, no need, don't call an ambulance, that's like $1,000 and I can get her quicker. So I race her over to the ER in Pontiac and they run some tests and they're like, your mom's had a series of strokes, she needs to go to the hospital. We take her to Peoria and my siblings get there and they say, okay, yeah, your mom has 100% blockage of this carotid artery and 90% in this, and these take all the blood to your brain. So one had been totally clogged and her brain wasn't getting enough nutrients, enough blood, stuff was kind of shutting down. Again, crazy chance that my alarm clock didn't go off. Crazy chance that I decided to break into my mom's house. All these things were very strange. But took her there. They told us 100%, 90%. So I'll scrunch this part down. They cleared both. She had clean pipes, blood's flowing into her brain area, over top of her brain, and things are good, but it's all this new blood. And so we're talking to her like the next day, because they had to do this stuff pretty quick. Me and my brother are talking to her when she's in, not remission, in recovery or whatever. And we're talking to her, she's making a little bit of sense, she's getting a little bit better. And I don't know if you know this, a little science lesson for you. Around your brain, there's basically a thing it's a lot like saran wrap. It's over top of your brain and blood goes on top of that. Because if blood actually touches your brain tissue, it's toxic. It's like if I took a gallon of water and threw it on these computers, it'd shut it all down and screw everything up. Same deal, saran wrap over your brain, blood flows over top of that. Well, mom had too much new blood going around that area, too much pressure. So that saran wrap popped. This is right after her surgery. Saran wrap broke, blood's gushing onto her brain, and it happened while I was mid-conversation with her. What do you think that looked like? So I'm talking to her, she's got applesauce going towards her mouth, and all of a sudden she's laughing and boom, like a jolt of electricity. She shrinks, closes her eyes and shrinks and doesn't move because there's blood going on her brain. Quickly the doctors come in, they say code blue, which means she's life's on the line. They wheel her out. They saw off half of her skull. They go boop, because her brain has blood on it and it's swelling up because of the reaction it has to blood. Swelling up. We saw my mom, like they shaved her head, cut off half the skull, put the skin back over the top, and part of her brain's like shutting out, and then later it decreases and looks like someone took a sledgehammer to her skull. It's like sunken in then. Freaky stuff. We don't know if she's going to make it. And there's a reason I'm telling you this story. It has something to do with the podcast. At that moment, I started thinking, do I want to keep roofing? Here's what I learned. Here's what I realized, is that it was going to sound dark. We're all going to die. We're all going to die. That's a fact of life. And it's nothing to be scared of or freaked out about. But we will all die. And life is probably shorter than you realize. Therefore, you can't waste this precious time of your life doing something that you don't believe is ultra meaningful, that you enjoy, that you're passionate about. I thought about it. I'm like, dude, I can't keep roofing. I can't keep roofing. I am young. I have my whole life ahead of me. I've got a lot of things I want to do. I can't keep roofing. I've got to do something more meaningful. Nothing against roofing. Some dudes are built for that. They can change the world with roofing, but it wasn't for me. So I thought, geez, I got to do something more with my life. And so I stopped roofing. Mom's coming through stuff. She ends up making it, but life is very difficult for her after that, and it still is today. And I think, okay, no more roofing. I move into an apartment, move out of my dad's. I'm still doing smoothies on the side. I kick up a website. I start selling smoothies. I call 45 different businesses to let me use their kitchen so I can prep my fruits, cut them up, freeze them, and then ship them at the end of the week and put them on dry ice. It was a really extravagant operation. But in those few months after my mom's near-death thing, I had to ask myself, what am I good at? What do I like to do? What is also meaningful to people in the world around me? And how can I make money? Because I want to do something meaningful for my career. And I started thinking about that and thinking about that and thinking about it. Like, what am I going to do with my life? Smoothies aren't it. Smoothies do not change the world. Smoothies do not inspire people. Smoothies are, I don't know, I mean, they make you healthy, I guess, for a moment if you drink them regularly and combine it with exercise, but it was not it. And serving at a restaurant was not it. So I started thinking, what am I good at? Well, film production. Are you kidding me? And okay. So what am I good at? Film production. I liked editing. I liked entertaining. I'm good at speech. I'm good at art. What am I interested in? Psychology. I love hearing people speak. I love hearing people's stories. It's so fascinating to me. And then how can I change the world with that? How can I improve the world around me and inspire people? If I get people to tell me their inspiring stories and I record it and then I blast it out to the world, you know what? That sounds like a good idea to me. So I decided to start a podcast. All these things, the crazy things that happened led me to this moment. So I started a podcast, and let me tell you, right out the gate, baby, terrible. Terrible podcast. Sounded like garbage. I didn't have video. My guests were, like friends. It was horrible. And I made no money. But about a quarter year into it, 3 months into it, it was just bad. It was just bad. It went from terrible to bad. 6 months, it was Then a year later, thousands of people listened to each episode. It's actually doing okay. I had to figure out how to have it make me money. And the way it made me money was I would charge local businesses to run commercials on my show, and I would make commercials for them. And at first they were charging me, or I was charging them like $5 because 100 people listened to it. Thousands of people listen to it now. I charge them $50 and multiple commercials on an episode, and you start making money. You start having multiple episodes a month. And now I'm fortunate to be in a position where I actually live in a place, and that's my full-time job. I make a living doing what I love, working with video and having people tell me their stories. I love hearing stories, and it's awesome. And so that's how I wound up in this position, and now I want to give you a little bit of advice in case you want to be entrepreneurial. Maybe you guys want to start your own business one day. Maybe you don't now, but maybe down the road, the dots will connect in a way that you're inspired to start your own business. So here's a few things, real quick. What are you passionate about? What are you passionate about? What do you like to do? Passion, that's huge. Because if you aren't passionate about it, it's going to take so much work to build your own business that you would be insane not to quit. So you've got to be passionate about it. It's got to be meaningful to other people. I said last time, I am passionate about dancing. I like dancing. I'm actually all right at it too. But does that provide any meaning to you? Does that inspire you in any way? When I do this stuff, does that do anything for you? Probably not. So I'm passionate about it, but it does not provide meaning to anyone. Plus, it doesn't make me any money. So passionate. Does it provide meaning to people? Does it move people? Does it make you money? Those are three big things. Because although something might be meaningful to people, can it make you money? That's a deal breaker if it can't. Passion, meaning, money. Those are three things you have to consider for if you want to start your own business. But anyway, that's basically it for my talk. Now, if you have any questions, I'd absolutely love to answer them.